If you don't live under a rock, you've probably noticed that Baby Keem has been everywhere this year. He was on Donda, he dropped a huge single and music video with his cousin Kendrick, and he just released his first studio album. Now, Keem is only 20 years old, but he's been dropping music for years, and at this point, he's got a pretty unique and recognizable style when it comes to rap flows, visuals, songwriting, and even production, most of which he handles for himself. Not only that, but he's starting to see real commercial success, but some people still aren't sold on his talent. So where did Baby Keem come from? How did he get his sound, and where is he going? Let's understand Baby Keem.
Thanks to CuriosityStream with Nebula for sponsoring and giving me a place to post the full uncut version of this documentary. More on that later.
Here's the rundown on who Baby Keem is. His real name is Hykeem Carter Jr, and he was born in October 2000 in Carson, California, which is right next to Compton if you haven't heard of it before. But for the most part, he lived in Las Vegas as a kid. He called it boring, dry, and small, and he couldn't wait to get back to California so he could explore art the way he wanted to. In his words, Vegas is nothing, no music scene. So he moved back to California as a teenager because he wanted to pursue his dream of making music. He borrowed $300 from his grandmother to buy a basic recording setup to learn on, and it was soon after that he dropped a trilogy of EPs under his real name in late 2017 and early 2018. Now, it's pretty hard to find information about these projects online since they're not available on streaming, but they are on YouTube, and actually, I don't even know who uploaded these or how they got the files, because most of these tracks have under 1,000 views. But even so, Keem's early music is actually really good. If you think he shows his influences too much now, I think you'd probably be horrified at how his music sounded a couple years ago. But I personally don't mind it, especially considering he was only 16 or 17 when he was recording it. But you listen to a song like Black from the Midnight EP, and he's basically using a Travis Scott type beat. His vocal effects and even the flow are ripped straight from Birds in the Trap. But it doesn't sound bad. I mean, it's mixed well. So here we go. Here are a few moments from Baby Keem's Midnight EP.
God got me living with no feelings, that's of course. I know God got me acting like the villain, that's of course. Ay. Yeah, enough of the fuck shit. I've been about that action. I've been pushing luggage. 1 million, I touch it. Take flight with the bag now. Don't put her in, though. You been broke, bitch. What's the song? You know I gotta know it. Ay.
He sounds like a mix of Travis, Kid Cudi, and Kanye's son, but he actually pulls it off pretty well for a kid in high school. Anyway, after his string of EPs, Keem managed to sign to Sony, and he started dropping mixtape projects that sound like they're basically designed for the Gen Z listener, and they were pretty good. He switched up his sound completely. He started rapping with a much choppier flow and a higher voice. His production got less typical. It sounds much more recognizable. It seems like Keem's vision just got much stronger for these projects. They really sound like him, not anyone else. And that development paid off, because these mixtapes did really well. The second one, Die For My Bitch, even produced a couple of hits and charted on the Billboard 200. I've said this before, but Keem always reminds me of Playboi Carti if he went to a therapist and read a book every now and then. What I mean by that is Keem has that divisive, trendy baby voice. He has a choppy flow and repetitive bars that make rappers like Cardi, Yeat, Pierre Bourne so popular in our generation. But I think at the same time, Keem says more. If I had to sum up Baby Keem, I would probably call him a creative trap rapper, expressive trap, alternative trap. A lot of artists in this generation, they're honestly kind of monotone. Their songwriting might be one-dimensional, their production might be basic, their flows can be stale, but nothing about Keem's music is ever uninspired or ever lazy. He has a great energy that just doesn't get boring. His songwriting is funny, it's emotional, it's autobiographical. His production is unique to him because he does it himself. His flows and voices are perfectly honed to his sound. Even though he sounds like a lot of his peers, it's always him. You can always tell immediately it's Baby Keem. So Die For My Bitch was very well received. It kind of flew under the radar. Not a lot of big publications gave it the time of day, but I think Baby Keem gained a ton of new fans with that mixtape. And at the same time, he was attracting attention not just for his music, but because of a rumor that he might be an industry plant. And I thought this was interesting because being called an industry plant is basically a slur for a musical artist. But Baby Keem was so clearly talented and full of good ideas that no one really cared. I mean, he was clearly given a boost by the fact that Kendrick Lamar is his first cousin. He got to work on a ton of TDE projects with songwriting and production credits on the Black Panther soundtrack, Redemption by J-Rock, and Crash Talk by Schoolboy Q. But like I said, no one seemed to mind because he deserved it. Who doesn't want more good music in the world, even if it comes from Kendrick's cousin? Anyway, Keem didn't even show his face, let alone mention he was related to Kendrick, until he had already been around for a while, so hardly anyone had a problem with it. Not to say it wasn't a topic of discussion, because that's a big part of what people say about Keem, but it wasn't a problem for him. About a year later, he starts rolling out his next album in a pretty slow, gradual way. I think the first single was released all the way back in the summer last year, and he kept slowly dropping more songs just to keep up the hype while he was working on it. It seemed like this next project was going to be Keem's first really big statement. Now that people knew who he was and what he looked like, he wanted to really establish his own sound in a major way. Keem announced the album's title and release date shortly after, but he actually ended up missing the release date, and the Melodic Blue didn't drop until September, 3 months after it was originally supposed to. The Melodic Blue is by far the most Baby Keem project that Baby Keem has dropped so far. But what do I mean by that? Well, first off, it's not entirely a hip-hop record. For a while now, Keem's been putting these songs on his projects that are basically emotional, introspective pop/indie songs with hip-hop drums. And at this point, he's actually pretty good at that formula. Apologize, Honest, Bullies, these are some of my favorite songs he's made, and they're not really hip-hop. I mean, they have hip-hop drums, but he's sing-rapping pop melodies with indie rock lyrics. He's blurring the lines at the very least, and he did way more of this on the Melodic Blue. Now, a lot of people didn't think the Melodic Blue was very cohesive, but to me, it was perfect. Everything just works. There's really no part of the album that I listened to and thought, you could get rid of that. He's still wearing his influences on his sleeve with stuff like Range Brothers totally being inspired by Travis Scott's slicked back psychedelic production. He's still doing the baby voice. Lots of production blatantly pays homage to 808s and Heartbreak and Astroworld or Rodeo. A lot of the songwriting reads like a much more likable, less douchey Drake off Views or Take Care. He's still two-phone Baby Keem. He's still rapping about his misadventures and mistakes with women and paying tribute to his family, and all of it is recognizable as him. He's not an artist who makes an album with 3 lead singles and the other 16 tracks are just filler, copy and paste. He's got a world in his music you can just dive into and form a bond with, because Baby Keem doesn't always portray himself as on top. Sometimes he fucks up and he puts it in his music. He questions things around him. Finishing the Melodic Blue, the final track 16 lit a light bulb in my head, and the light bulb said 2 words: Tame Impala. If you're a fan of Tame Impala, you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. Keem's music gives the feeling of watching life pass by from behind his eyes. You get to see the fantastical, exaggerated version, but you also get the very real, very honest version of things too. Because Keem doesn't always fit in. Sometimes he's on the outside looking in, sometimes he overthinks and fucks up, and that's a part of his music. To me, that's his biggest, most unique strength as an artist. He has such a strong talent for storytelling that he's both larger than life and extremely real at the same exact time. It's not something most artists can pull off, but even so, like I said earlier, a lot of critics didn't like the Melodic Blue very much. Some people even called the Melodic Blue mediocre, which just confuses the hell out of me. I think Baby Keem could be releasing classic projects sooner rather than later. You know, he's going down this road of trap beats mixed in with indie songwriting, and that could really become his lane, his sound. And I think there's going to be a huge market for that. In a way, his sound reminds me of a younger Tyler. I really can see a future where he's got a Tyler-like position in the industry with a hugely dedicated fan base and his own lane in music. But of course, it's a little too early to tell. To me, the Melodic Blue is a great album, but it's also a promise of even more potential to be achieved in the future. Baby Keem is a unique artist. Have I said that enough yet? I mean, he's got his own sound. Baby voice, trap meets indie, diary-like songwriting meets Playboy Cardi rapping. To me, the formula works really well. Just a couple years ago, he was making Travis Scott sound-alikes, and now he's one of the strongest rappers coming out of Gen Z. I think he could define the sound of hip-hop in the 2020s. In 4 or 5 years, if he keeps growing and maturing as an artist, he could be one of the biggest rappers around. This has been Volksgeist. Thank you for watching.
One of the single biggest questions I always get about these videos is why isn't there music from the artist in the video? And the reason is pretty simple. If I throw in even just one little clip from a Baby Keem song to say, hey, this is what this sounds like, YouTube is going to hit me with a message saying, not so fast, bucko, no money for you. Or a lot of the time it might even be, hey, no video for you at all. Because their copyright detection system just doesn't work for creators. But that's not a problem at all on Nebula, because it's my streaming platform where I don't have to worry about algorithms or broken copyright detection software. So check out the Nebula Plus version of this video, where there are tons of extra sequences featuring music, video clips, and more discussion that I just couldn't include in the YouTube cut. Because in addition to a broken copyright detection system, YouTube's algorithm doesn't promote long, thoughtful videos as much as it used to, which is fine, but I feel like I want my videos to be seen by as many people as possible, which means I usually end up taking a bunch of sections out of my videos to make them shorter and easier to get into. Which is to say, if you check out Nebula, you're going to be getting a bigger, more in-depth, more fully fleshed out version of my Understanding series. You'll watch it the way I made it, the way I want it to be watched. Plus, I already have an exclusive Nebula original about the history of synthesizers, and I'm working on a completely original series diving into and exploring the strangest music genres of all time. And I'm not the only creator on Nebula. You can watch exclusive content from other music creators like Adam Neely, Amy Nolte, Polyphonic, Todd in the Shadows, Middle 8 and 12 Tone, tech YouTubers like MKBHD, iPhone Doe, Renee Ritchie. There's film analysis, history, science, and engineering. There's something for everyone on Nebula, and it's all ad-free and sponsor-free all the time. There are no distractions distractions whatsoever. And of course, Nebula is available for free if you sign up with today's sponsor, CuriosityStream, at curiositystream.com/Volksgeist. And because you're watching this video, you can get CuriosityStream for 26% off, the best deal available anywhere, at less than $15 for the entire year. And of course, that includes their library of thousands of documentaries, including one of my favorite documentaries right now, focused on one of my very own Mr. Jimmy Donaldson, aka Mr. Beast. Beyond the Spotlight tells the story of how Mr. Beast built the biggest video empire on YouTube based off his lifelong obsession with making videos and helping people around him. Nebula is one of the best ways to support the creators and push the online video medium forward. One of the best streaming deals, and look, Nebula is the future of so much of what I'm doing. You'd be missing out by not signing up for CuriosityStream. It's less than $15 for the entire year, and you get Nebula included for free, so you can watch Understanding Baby Keem as I originally made it. Just click the button on the screen or go to curiositystream.com/Volksgeist. Clicking the link really helps out my channel. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.